Howdy, y'all. So I just finished watching Tales of the Underworld, the new animated little short series from Star Wars that came out on May the 4th. This video will probably be coming out about a week or so afterwards, but I just finished watching it last night, and overall, it was pretty fun. This video is just going to be kind of my brief rundown reactions, nothing super in depth, just kind of my surface thoughts on it. And first and foremost, it was very fun. I enjoyed it all the way through. It is a pretty short watch. The longest episode is, I think it's still under 20 minutes. So it's a pretty short watch. There's only 6 episodes. 3 of them go towards one story, and then 3 of them go towards another. Very similar to the Tales of the Jedi, Tales of the Empire, whatever it was called. Those little short things that they've done previously. Very similar to those, kind of following that formula. First things first, the stuff with Ventress, which she was the main character, or one of the main characters that was in the first 3 episodes. The stuff with her fighting with her lightsaber was really fun, and that is a nice change of pace from stuff with Star Wars and lightsabers recently. I have not been a super big fan of the any lightsaber combat within Star Wars for probably the last 5 years or so. It's been pretty rough for a while. I did really enjoy the lightsaber fight between Maul and Ahsoka in Clone Wars. That one's really good, and I don't know a whole lot of people that really disagree with that. But lightsaber stuff in this one was actually really fun, and they did some damage to some people, and that was also pretty dang cool to see. It is in an animated format, so it's a little bit easier to do, I think, but they have the budget to do CGI. I don't know why I would be saying it's easier or not. But yes, this one, the lightsaber combat was very, very clean, very fun. And yeah, that was a nice surprise. Another thing that's pretty cool about this little short series is that it does keep the story open for the future for Ventress. She does have a capability of coming back at some point in the story down the road if they want to do something else with her. There is a whole bunch of stuff of Quinlan Vos still being out there, so maybe that's a story they want to run into later on. I don't know. I'm not really going too deep into spoiler territory too terribly much, because, again, I'm just kind of doing this as a brief rundown. But there is some interesting stuff going on with her. Some of it I was a little iffy on, but it wasn't anything super major in my book. But yeah, she is still out there during the time of the Empire, which I'm not the biggest fan of more Force users being continuously added to this time period, because it makes you wonder where they were during the time of the war. And I guess that's something that they could elaborate on, and I'm sure they probably will at some point. But it is a little bit congested, in my opinion, where you see the originals where you only had Luke, Obi-Wan, and Yoda as far as Jedi goes, and then now you have Ahsoka was there around that time, and then you have a whole bunch of other there's just a couple other Jedi that are roaming around. It feels a little bit more and more congested, and that stuff is happening. As long as good stories are made to explain why they weren't present, though, in the main parts of the war, I'm okay with that. It's more of a nitpick on my end. I just don't like them continuously adding them if there's no story surrounding it why they weren't there in the main parts of the war. And I kind of get it with Ventress. She seems to kind of not want to be involved in the war, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's just kind of the only thought I had there. But overall, if she gets more stories down the road, I'll be pretty excited about it, honestly. I will say, the only other thing that I wasn't the biggest fan of in this is that, little bit of a spoiler if you have not watched it yet, the opening scene is Quinlan Vos with Obi-Wan carrying Ventress on Dathomir to a ritual pool for her burial, basically, because Ventress died in the events of, I believe it's Dark Disciple is the book, where Dooku ends up killing her when Ventress and Vos were fighting Dooku, which is a really good story from what I've heard, and I need to go and actually read the book. But yeah, they bring her into this pool, and then once she's in the pool, she's kind of reanimated in a ethereal realm almost by Mother Talzin, who gives her a choice to return to the living world or be with her sisters in whatever realm that they have transcended to. But she comes back to life instantly. And they said there was some consequences of, like, you will not attain your heart's desire or whatever. So I'm wondering if there's, like, a curse or something, so she couldn't end up, like, interacting with Boss or something like that. I don't know. They didn't really elaborate on it. But it is just another thing that returns someone from the dead in Star Wars that Anakin was not aware of nor could do. It's not nearly as egregious as the Force healing in the sequels was. And the Mandalorian, Grogu, all that stuff, not nearly as egregious as that Force healing ability. This one does seem more like it was exclusive to the Night Sisters, and because she is a Night Sister herself, she had access to it. I'm assuming that's how that works. They didn't really specify, but that's kind of how it came off to me. So it didn't bother me too terribly much, but it was just another thing where I was like, oh, too bad Anakin didn't know about this. But even still, like I said, even if Anakin knew about it, he might not be able to use it. So I guess that's that. During that arc, I got to see my favorite droid again. Heissinger's in there, and you get to see Lats again. It's pretty neat getting to see those characters again. Kind of would have wished that Embo was in there, because he was a part of that group a while back, but they didn't put the full group in. They could have had a couple of people in there, but they just settled on those two, and perfectly fine. Made sense for the story. But yeah, my all-time favorite droid is in there. He's in like 3 episodes of Clone Wars or something, but I just latched onto him as a kid because I thought he looked really cool. And yeah, you get to see the origin of Cad Bane for the second arc of the shorts. The last 3 episodes was Cad Bane as a kid, his upbringing, and then the actions that set him down the path that he ended up on during the time of the Clone Wars and on from then, and I guess a little bit before the Clone Wars too. His story was pretty neat overall. I enjoyed it a lot. I really didn't have anything to critique on it all that much. It's a short story. It did its thing, and that was that. And it was enjoyable. It was good. And with the time they had and how it played out, I really don't have any major complaints on it. My main takeaway is that he's a really awful father. They did drop that in there, that he does have a kid. No clue where the kid is, though. Could still be there. Could not be at this point. I don't know. Wherever in the timeline that happens. Probably not super important because he left him. But yeah, I really enjoyed getting to see the difference between him and his friend Nero that he was with to start the arc. And you can see from the very first episode that they had some pretty major differences, is that Bane was a lot more impulsive and just really was like going by the moment, what benefited him in the moment. You can see that there are multiple times where Nero is thinking ahead a little bit more, and also has a little bit more of a sense of right and wrong and wants to stay more on the right end of that. But through this series, you get to see the actions that send Cad Bane down the path that he goes on. And given his circumstances and his personality, it's a little bit understandable why things went the way they did. He's really impulsive, is really jealous, and he ended up acting out on his impulses and what he wanted in the moment. And by the end of it, you can see there's definitely a little bit of regret, but then he continues walking down that path and just doing what he's been doing. But yeah, overall, the whole series was overall very good. It was very fun, and I think it's definitely worth watching. I didn't really have any major critiques or anything in the plot that was like gonna break everything in Star Wars or anything like that. So yeah, I would definitely recommend watching it. I might go more in depth into this down the road. I might not. I don't know. I have an idea for a different video right now, so we'll see how much time that takes and what's happening. But hope y'all enjoyed this one. I hope y'all are having a great day, and God bless.